topic, that is contentment. In our Indian psychology, we analyze the reactions and the movements of the mental system in a very rational, scientific way. Perhaps this will give us an idea of how to develop contentment. So they divide the entire mental system into three fundamental angles from their operational point of view. One is bhoga, the other is vega or udvega. In English we can say one, experience. The second are emotional, relational reactions to this experience. Experience need not necessarily be from outside. So when we perceive different things, our mind and senses of perception come together and perceive, cognize external phenomena. When eyes and mind come together, we see an object visually. If only mind is involved, we won't be seeing the object. And if the sense of perception, like eyes alone, are involved, then also we won't see. We'll be staring at certain objects. But if our mind is elsewhere, we won't be seeing that. We may be looking, but we won't be seeing. So also when mind and ears come together, then we come to know things which produce sound. So when the mind and the sense of touch come together, then we see objects by touching. When the mind and the sense of smelling come together, then we perceive different things by smelling. Like that, all the five senses of perception and mind come together. So Shankaracharya and Vivekachudamani, which you are studying now, I told, he puts it in a very interesting way. Sabdadibhi panjabhireva panja panjatta mapussa gunena baddhaha kuranga madanga padanga meenaha dhangaha nara panjabhiranchidaki. This is a statement. So he says, mind and all these five senses of perception, like Shabda, etc., they come together and we recognize different things. So he takes the example from nature. See, in ancient days, hunters used to hunt deer by playing a flute or some musical instrument. So when the hunter plays a musical instrument, a deer hiding in a bush or a cave comes out of that place, attracted by the sound, and it will be killed. So also elephants move in groups, in herds, and when they move, they touch each other. And then when they touch each other, what happens? This touching makes them oblivious of some pits or maybe some other traps that elephant hunters have prepared, and they fall into a pit and they are killed. So the deer is killed by the attraction to a sound, because the sound drags its mind towards the place from where the sound is coming, and the hunter kills it. So also elephants. Then Kuranga Madanga Padanga means the mouth. During rainy season, all these insects emerge in large numbers, and they are attracted by the visual object. When you start a fire and when there's a flame, these moths are drawn towards it, and then they are killed. And then fish get caught by the trap of the sense of taste, and then the black bee, they are caught by the attraction of the smell. So Kuranga, Madanga, Padanga, Meena, Brunka is black bee. Now in the case of all these 5 creatures, only one sense of perception is active, and that causes it to come out of its place and gets killed, it gets trapped, it loses its freedom. And then he exclaims, Narapanjabhiranjita king. So in the case of human beings, every moment, simultaneously, all the 5 senses are actively involved in dragging the mind to various objects. So what happens is, all the time we are reacting to experiences coming from outside and also from within. So happiness, unhappiness, pain, pleasure, these are all subjective. Or maybe visual, audio objects from objective world. So we react to these bhogas, these objects, these different things of enjoyment or attraction, and then we react in an internal way or an external way. So this reaction is called volitional, emotional reactions to these experiences could normally be twofold. One, raga, the other is dvesha. Extreme liking, attraction, attachment to certain things, and its opposite, extreme dislike. So raga and dvesha. These are called, in the Patanjali system, these are called kleshas, panja kleshas. So avidya, asmida, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, klesha. So Patanjali says, these raga and dvesha constitute the essence of kleshas. There is a third one which Patanjali says, abhinivesha. Abhinivesha could mean you move away from certain things through a kind of feeling of repulsion. So raga is extreme attraction, obsession to certain things. Dvesha is opposite, an extreme repulsion against certain things. Abhinivesha is a tendency to move away, neither extreme attraction nor its opposite, extreme hatred, aversion, but rather total indifference, move away, which is rooted in fear. Now, these 3 reactions, in a way, so abhinivesha could be included either in the dvesha aspect or could be related to the raga aspect, whatever may be. So these emotional, volitional reactions to different objects, they are rooted in asmida. Asmida means a kind of egotism. We identify ourselves with this body, mind, intellect. And that again is rooted in the feeling that we are only this psychophysical mechanism. So I can make it clear through one small illustration. First of all, we think that we are just this psychophysical mechanism. Second, due to this, we identify ourselves with this psychophysical mechanism. And so long as we interpret ourselves as this body of the mind, we cannot get out of either hatred or extreme liking. You find in our life, we do certain things either due to extreme attraction, which is irrational, and extreme repulsion, which is also equally irrational, and also a tendency to avoid, which is also related to this. So all our actions are not conscious actions. If we, in fact, that's why in Buddhist tradition, they talk about mindfulness, which is again rooted in the Yogacara system of the Vijnanavada school of Buddhist ideals, where you live in moment and you identify yourself with whatever you do in a very conscious way. Through this identification, you forget everything else So in a way, you are momentarily free from both extreme attraction, raga, and also extreme aversion, dvesha. So what happens, you feel a kind of momentary freedom from all this. That's why this Buddhist meditation is becoming popular. What happens, momentarily it liberates you from all these external volitional emotional reactions. So Patanjali says, so long as we identify ourselves just as this body with the mind and intellect, there is no way out of this. And Vedanta gives the answer, because yoga system culminates in Vedanta. So that way, according to Shankaracharya, yoga system is very helpful to the extent that it helps you to attain Chitta Shuddhi. That is Advaiti's position. So, how to get out of this? We have to analyze ourselves as to what we are. If we are only the physical body, then the slightest physical pain will have a destabilizing effect in our system. See, for example, you sit there concentrating on the body. Then even if an ant bites you, you will feel it very strongly. On the other hand, you take your mind away by reading some good book in which you are interested. Then you are lifting yourself from the body consciousness level to the intellect consciousness level. Then even the same ant bites you, you may not be aware of it. And now, can we take ourselves away from the mental, the intellectual, and can we elevate ourselves to the Atman level? Then an event taking place at the mental level, an event that makes you happy or unhappy, even that cannot make us unstable emotionally. If we can identify ourselves as the Atman, the inner consciousness, which is beyond pain and pleasure, which is which transcends the body, mind and intellect. At that stage, even pain and pleasure cannot make us lose our balance. So, what happens? First of all, we must learn to interpret ourselves as something beyond this body, beyond this mind and beyond this intellect. Because contentment as such is unreachable at the body level and also the intellectual level or emotional level. Body can never be perfect because it changes, it evolves. From birth to babyhood to boyhood or girlhood and then youth, middle age, old age, death, and of course rebirth, like that goes on evolving. So whatever is subject to change can never be perfect. Mind also becomes happy now and becomes unhappy next moment. So it also is subject to change. Is there something beyond change which remains permanent, which remains stable? So Vedanta gives the answer, Atman. So if we can interpret ourselves as this immanent spiritual reality, that's beyond mind, beyond intellect, then we can be in a state of stability. Stability means going beyond pain and pleasure, because there is no such thing as having pleasure all the time. It is no more desirable than having pain all the time. So the only way to avoid pain is to stop seeking pleasure. So there is a state which is beyond pain and pleasure, which is the state beyond mind, because mind is always enjoying pain now and enjoying pleasure now and suffering pain next moment. So there is something which is beyond mind, beyond intellect. This is Atman. So if we can identify ourselves as this Atman, then there is no more pain. And if there is no pain, there is contentment. That's the state of, that's a mental state which is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. You find in the 54th verse of the second chapter, Arjuna puts one question before Krishna. So, Sthita prajnasya kāmbhāṣā samadhistasya keshava stidadhi kim prabhāṣeda kim asida vrajeda kim. How does an enlightened person who has transcended this body and mind and intellect, how does such a person talk, behave, how does he interact with the rest of the world? This is the question. So in answer to this, Lord Krishna gives a graphic description of a sthita prajna, means a person, a spiritual seeker who has reached the highest degree of perfection, where mind has become contented, is established in this inner contentment. So it's in 18 verses, right from 55th to 72nd verse. It's a long description. So dukkeshu anuddigdhamana sukheshu vigadaspruha vita raga bhaya krodha sthitadihi muni uchyate. This is the most vital verse because all others are related to this. So dukkeshu anuddigdhamana, the one who is not disturbed, who is not perturbed, who is not shocked, who is not devastated in a painful experience. But this is possible only if he remains in a state of perfect balance when he has to face an unpleasant situation. So, sukheshu vigadaspruha. So he should not have thirst or hunger or desire for sukha, for pleasant experiences. In happy situations, he should not lose his balance. Because if we are looking always for happiness, then we are doomed to be in a state of pain or unpleasant experience at one stage or other. That's why dukkeshu anuddigdhamana sukheshu vigadaspruha vitaraga bhaya krodha. So he is beyond, he is completely free from raga, dvesha and bhaya. So all these three kleshas mean raga, dvesha and abhinivesha. So he is not attracted to certain things. And for that very reason, if he doesn't get certain things, he is not unhappy. And he doesn't try to move away from certain things. Now when we explain this the prajna lakshanas, so one big question arises. Muni is the word used. So Muni, literally we mean Muni is a long hair, a beard and vibhuti and sitting in a cave practically doing nothing. So actually Muni is Mananath Muni. So Muni is a person who can contemplate, who can think. It's not an external phenomenon. So Muni is a person who can think of his true identity. So this is Mananath Muni. So often Maunam is associated with silence. Actually a person who is silent may not be Muni because his mind will be perturbed, disturbed. That's why there is a story that goes about, interesting story. In the Gita, there is a statement, Yuktahara vikarasya yukta cheshtasya yukta swapna avabodhasya. So yoga bhavati dukkha. So dukkha yoga means a yoga that destroys dukkha, that takes you beyond pain and pleasure. So you should be moderate. Now suppose we don't eat food and without drinking water. If we sit the whole day, if that person says, well, I am fasting, all these fellows are eating like some gluttons, that person should first of all eat 4 square meals every day. Because then only he becomes qualified to practice fasting. So upavasa, so upa is one of the upasargas, which is upasanidhi, the Panini statement. So sanidhya means takes you, upa, that particular upasarga means it should take you towards higher spiritual truth, vasati. Means you live together, you stay in close proximity with Atman, with spiritual consciousness. In that sense, upavasa is used. So, if a person is sitting quiet, fasting, but terrible thoughts are going on in his mind, it is not mauna. So, you don't speak because you are so deeply contemplative that you are not speaking because you are deeply contemplative, you are immersed in higher thought, not disturbing thought currents, but immersed in higher thought. So that's the meaning of mananam, it is called, deep contemplation with a perfect understanding of the meaning of what you are contemplating on, with higher identity. So the point is, a sthita prajna is not necessarily a person who is insensitive, who keeps himself away from the world, who is not participating in his social or family obligations or national obligations, who doesn't respond to the needs and demands of society. No. A sthita prajna is, on the other hand, is a very sensitive person. He is not insensitive. He is not physically inactive. Rather, he is active in a more sublime sense. So that's the meaning of sthita prajna. So when you reach that state, you get established in a state of inner contentment, which is a spiritual state of mind. This state can be reached only when we are able to withdraw. So withdrawal needs some commentary, some description, because we don't forcibly withdraw the senses from sense objects. We direct the senses and mind towards a higher spiritual goal, and then they get withdrawn from all external sensory objects. So this can be achieved only by this withdrawal. So that is why in the same chapter there is a description of how we frequently lose our state of contentment, state of steadiness. So the verse is Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Ubajayade Sangar Sanjayade Kamaha Kama Krodha Abhijayade Krodha Bhavati Samoha Samoha Smriti Vibhramaha. So Smriti Vibhramsha Buddhinashu Buddhinasha Pranashihi. So here a person who is always meditating upon, thinking about external things, he develops an interest, obsession, attraction towards these external objects. Now, Lord Krishna uses the word dhyayataha, means dhyanam purvataha, means the one who meditates. But in some other commentaries, there is a more comprehensive meaning given. It says, see, you do not feel an attraction towards certain things and then start meditating on them. Sometimes we feel like contemplating on things that are available around us. Sometimes it happens. So whatever is around us, available for sensory perception and cognition, the mind automatically goes towards them. And then the mind develops either a great attraction or repulsion. If there is an attraction and if you try to get it, if you don't get it, you become angry, mind loses its balance, and you mentally we degrade ourselves. And if this external object of attraction creates repulsion or aversion in our mind, then also the same thing happens. So, as a beginning, what a spiritual seeker should do is, he should make a conscious effort to give a spiritual orientation to the natural tendencies of the senses of perception. So one cannot forcibly withdraw the senses from external things. If you try, you find it's impossible. Suppose you take a strong decision tomorrow onwards, you will never see anything. You may not go there and see that. Mentally, you will be seeing only that object. If we try to avoid certain things, then we may not be seeing that externally, but we will be mentally visualizing that visual object all the time in our mind. So also, if we take a decision not to hear certain things, still we'll be hearing those things. There is mental hearing, mental touching, mental seeing. Many people may interpret hearing as sound waves directly falling into the ears. That's not necessary. Suppose you listen to music this morning, tomorrow you are able to reproduce it. Why? Because the memory is registered in your mind. So when you try to practice it, you re-experience, you relive the experience of hearing. You'll be hearing again mentally. So the point is, what we must do is, first of all, you should give a spiritual orientation to the natural tendencies of the five senses, and also the mind. And when mind develops a natural attraction towards good things, then it will have a natural tendency to withdraw from the negative, spiritually harmful objects and experiences. And this way, the mind gets filled with positive thought currents, positive ideas. So mind is sometimes, it could be interpreted, compared either to a lake or a bag. When you try to analyze the antakarana, which means mana, buddhi, chitta and ahankara, frequently you have to think of a bag. So, see, when we try, suppose we attend this retreat, and from Monday onwards we try to practice. See, many sincere seekers practice it, and they succeed gradually. But at the very beginning you find there are obstacles. These obstacles come from the opposite thought currents that we may have already accumulated in the mind. So this mind is a bag which contains both good thought currents and bad thought currents. That's why multiple personality and certain types of schizophrenia all are now being analyzed by even mainstream psychiatrists with the help of law of karma and rebirth, though they don't openly proclaim it. We have accumulated a lot of good currents, good impressions, good ideas. That's why we discuss these things. That's why we are drawn towards and attracted towards great spiritual ideas. But as I said, this morning, Vikshipta mind, it moves from one end of the clock to the other end, like a pendulum. So it moves away from spiritual ideas sometimes, because the mind also has accumulated some unhappy impressions. They also come to the surface. So there is a conflict. And people with a predominance of spiritual impressions, vasanas and samskaras, are able to be steady, able to enjoy more stability in spiritual matters. People with less of positive samskaras will have more disturbance. So the only way, and it's very simple, is to go on accumulating positive samskaras, so that they will be the majority. So when the positive samskaras get accumulated more and more, what happens? Negative samskaras become the minority. That's why when some spiritual seekers came to Sri Ramakrishna, so Sri Ramakrishna will try to analyze. Then you will say, little more to be gone through. But you have to practice, you have to pray. He more frequently advises spiritual seekers to pray and not to meditate. He says, of course, he does instruct disciples and devotees to meditate, but more frequently he asks them to pray, because prayer helps you to accumulate positive spiritual samskaras more easily. And when these spiritual samskaras, positive, healthy, spiritually desirable samskaras increase in the quantity, then we are able to be stable in spiritual practices, in understanding spiritual matters. So first of all, we should remember experience of bhoga, then how we react to them, either in the form of raga, extreme attraction, and dvesha. Attraction not sometimes will be towards undesirable things. By giving a spiritual orientation to our natural tendencies, we develop a tendency to get attracted to spiritual ideas in a natural way. And then what happens? We are able to enjoy stability in spiritual practices. So this is one of the techniques normally given in the Bhagavad Gita. So in the 12th chapter, Lord Krishna gives in a very systematic way, he gives 4 levels of spiritual growth. From 8th verse to 11th verse, the 12th chapter. So from 11 to from 8 verse to 11th verse, 4 verses. So mayyeva mana adatsva mai buddhim niveshaya nivasishyasi mayyeva atha urdham na samshaya. This is 8th one. Then atha chittam samadhadam na shaknoshi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mamikchatum dhananjaya. So in a descending order. So Lord Krishna says in the 8th verse, a spiritual seeker who has reached a very high level of perfection is able to mentally live in spiritual ideas, in God, and then God also lives in him, because his mind, his intellect lives in God. But this is a difficult thing to do. So if we cannot do that, then practice Abhyasa Yoga. Abhyasa Yoga is the only word used, but what Lord Krishna means is giving a spiritual orientation to the natural tendencies of the mind and the 5 senses of perception. So you may be reading a lot of things. So include some useful higher spiritual literature in the list of books or magazines that we read. We may be hearing different things. So include some spiritual matters in the list of things we are going to hear. We may be meeting all sorts of people. We should not run away from anybody, but make it a point also to meet some spiritual seekers whose association will awaken and maybe purify our interest in spiritual matters. So Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So this the Navadha Bhakti, as I explained in the Bhagavata Purana by Prahlada, is generally explained a kind of Abhyasa Yoga. So in modern times, it could be in a different way. In modern times, we can say we work in the computer field, so by being engaged in so many other things, include some spiritual matters in our natural activities. As I said, visit many places, we include some temples, churches, spiritual places in the list of places that we normally visit. So also meet people who are spiritually inclined. So this is a kind of Abhyasa Yoga, which is a kind of, you are giving a spiritual orientation to the natural tendencies of the mind and the 5 senses of perception. This also may not be easy. So Abhyasepi asamarthosi mad karma paramo bhava madartham abhi karmani kurvan siddhim vapchasi. In the 10th verse, Lord Krishna says, even if you cannot practice Abhyasa Yoga, you try to do your duty, but look upon your duty, your work, your obligations as God's work. If this is also not possible, atha etadapi ashaktosi kartum madhyogamasidha sarva karma phala tyaga tadakureda. The sarva karma phala tyagam can lead to a lot of misunderstanding in modern times. So what is meant is through the practice of non-attachment, we must develop a tendency of being not attached towards the results of our actions. In Western context, if you use the word detachment, it has got a negative connotation. They have to confront this problem. You should talk about attachment, especially in family life. It's a very sacred thing. So you should not be detached. So non-attachment or detachment needs some explanation. What actually meant is this. Very often when we do our duty with a strong desire, with what you call obsessive desire, to a selfish desire for the benefits of our actions, we get spiritually enslaved. We become slaves. That's what happens. Because you are doing your work and again you don't have peace of mind. The concern for the results of your work manifest in the form of anxiety, neurosis, depression, melancholia, and so on. It could be psychosomatic problems like BP, or it could be gravitational diabetes and so many other ways, stress and so on. That's because we become slaves. So the question is, can we work not as slaves but as masters? So one set of work is working as slaves. Karidehi avashak karma sarva prakritijehi gunai. So raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, three gunas also, sattva guna, rajo guna, tamo guna, all these enslave us. Because so much of obsessive attachment to the point of mental slavery. So that's the meaning of attachment. It should not be interpreted in any other way in modern context. So that's that point, that kind of mental enslavement. Selfish attachment, obsession with certain things, which give us no mental peace. It takes away our mental peace and tranquility. So that should be avoided. That's the real meaning of practicing non-attachment. So that's the meaning of sarva karma phalatyaga. It's not giving up the result in the gross sense of the term. Giving up of our obsessive enslavement by the concerns for the result. That's the real meaning here. So these are 4 levels of quest for contentment. Even when we reduce our obsessive concern for the benefits of what we are doing, our work, then also you feel a kind of inner peace. The first manifestation is you feel a soothing effect in the mind. Again, it should not be interpreted as inaction or negligence or indifference to work. Vedanta and Yoga never talk about negligence of duty or even lowering down to God. No. What it says is, what enslaves us, making us mental ruts of anxiety, neurosis and depression and other related problems, that should be given up. And that's what is meant by Sarva Karma Phalatyagam in practical terms. Now, this could be practiced by anyone. I can substantiate some of these ideas with the help of one illustration. It comes in the Bhagavad Purana. There are two illustrations. One is about Vyasa himself. Vyasa was a great author, great scholar, supposed to be the compiler or the one who, the classifier of the four Vedas, the author of Mahabharata, and so all the 18 Puranas, all that. 18 Mahabhuranas, Upapuranas, Bhagavad Purana, and everything Vyasa wrote. Now, before he wrote Bhagavad Purana, he had already completed classifying the Vedas, writing the Mahabharata. But he was in a state of total discontentment. So that's how the story begins. The greatest author, the most reputed scholar of that time, that age, fully accomplished person. Maybe it's a symptom of the problems of success. That's what he had. He was the greatest author, most reputed author of those days, and he was a great teacher. And one day he was sitting in the banks of river Saraswati. He felt an inner void, an inner emptiness, discontentment. That's what he felt. So, and he was wondering, he couldn't find an answer for this. This is called a dark night of the soul. That's what he had. You really don't know what is the cause of this problem. But you feel your journey has come to a dead end. You cannot go beyond this. That is exactly what is happening to Vyasa. So another great sage appeared before him. His name was Narada. This is a dialogue. So Narada asked him, Vyasa, you are such an accomplished person, a great author, a great scholar, philosopher, well known all over the world. You have every reason to be in a state of perfect contentment, happiness. So what's the matter with you? So Vyasa could not give a proper real answer. Narada was testing with the Vyasa, at least theoretically knew the problem. He didn't know. Then Narada told him, look here, you have wrote this magnificent Mahabharata, more than 100,000 verses, and so many other works, Brahma Sutra, Badarayana Sutras, then he classified Vedas, Puranas, everything. Then Narada spoke about Mahabharata. His magnum opus of Vyasa. Other Vedas were not his works, he just classified. Mahabharata is his own creation. Remember to get an idea of it. Mahabharata is 13 times as big as Homer's Iliad, Odyssey and Virgil's Aeneid put together. The greatest classics of Greek and Latin tradition. In its largest version, is 145,000 verses. Mahabharata has different versions. In its most elaborate, in its biggest version, it is more than 145,000. The ordinary version that we get today in printed form, it is more than 100,000 verses. So, what did you do in the Mahabharata? You spoke about dharma. Here, the word dharma in this particular context, used in this dialogue, means, constitutional law. What is right, legally right. So, Narada told him, you wrote this wonderful book and you are unhappy. You know the reason why you are unhappy? You expounded dharma. Now, dharma is a very neutral thing, as a law, as a constitution. If you get a brilliant lawyer, even a crook can get out of the trap. So a lawyer can argue both ways. Constitution is like elastic, could be stretched in all directions. So a brilliant lawyer can help Hitler to come out of all the crimes he committed. So it is neutral. So you didn't give anything to the world that is substantial. You should give to the world something that should give them a feeling of spiritual elevation. And the dharma won't do that. Dharma, so in Mahabharata you find the villain Duryodhana had his own argument for all the evil things he did. Dushasana also has his own arguments. So you can find, if you read Mahabharata, you find Duryodhana says, I know dharma, janami dharmam nachame nivritti. Janami dharmam nachame pravritti. Janami adharmam nachame nivritti. So Duryodhana himself says, Janami dharmam nachame pravritti. I know what is dharma, what right thing to do, but I can't do that. And I know what is the wrong thing, and I cannot resist doing it. Janami adharmam nachame nivritti. And then he says, Yatha Rishikesa Hridisthidena, Lord, you are sitting in me, so whatever you make me do, I'm doing it. That Hitler also can say, Genghis Khan can say that. Any crook criminal can say, well, it's God who is making me do all these things. So, you find in Mahabharata something like that. And the world is not going to be benefited in a big way by writing such a wonderful thing. Gita is different, but Gita is a very, it's a very small fraction, only 700 verses, in a large book of 100,000 verses, mind you. So, in the shortest version. So Narada told him, you did not give anything to the world, it is substantial. Because in the huge forest of Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita is very insignificant. And mind you, historically, we are reading Bhagavad Gita today because Shankaracharya wrote a commentary. In fact, we have 18 Gitas in the Puranas, Mahabharata and Bhagavata put together. There are 18 Gitas. Sutta Gita, Uddhava Gita, Bhagavad Gita, and there are so many Gitas, Monkey Gita, many Gitas, Hamsa Gita, like that. So, monkey is the name of a saint, not English word. So, that's unfortunately that's a term, The name was Mankadeva. So it's not English word, it's a Sanskrit word. So the point is, of these 18 Gitas, Bhagavad Gita is a very small fraction, and it became a celebrated world classic just because Shankaracharya wrote this magnificent commentary on it in 8th century. Otherwise, you wouldn't be reading Gita today. So, and this dialogue took place long before that. So Narada told him, unless you do something substantial for the good of the whole humanity, you cannot have peace of mind. So, that's why, big captains of industry, after accumulating billions of dollars, they're eager to start a trust. Why? Because they're feeling an inner void. Of course, this could happen only for noble souls, noble people. It need not happen to everyone. But people with higher refinement and culture feel the need to do something more than their own selfish things and enjoy a higher peace of mind. So it's called Parinama Dukkha in the yoga system. So Vyasa wrote Bhagavata Purana. So in Bhagavata Purana, it doesn't say, he doesn't talk much about dharma as understood in the Mahabharata. It talks about Bhagavata Dharma, which means the dharma, the definite path of dharma that will take you to the highest spiritual attainment. For that, Vyasa says in the 11th chapter, the highest devotee is one who sees the presence of God in everyone and everything, and who sees everybody and everything in God. Sarva bhudeshu pashyed bhagavat bhavam atmanaha bhudani bhagavadi atmani esha bhagavadottamah. So the 11th chapter, there is another dialogue in the Bhagavata Purana between King Nemi and 9 sages. Kavir Andariksha Prabhuddha Pippalayana Avikotro Durmilas Chamasa Karabhaja. 9 sages who visited a great emperor, a philosopher king, one day. And a king puts 9 questions to these sages. And to each question, the sages give the answer. So one important question was this: what is the highest religion? What is the highest state of perfect equanimity and contentment, inner contentment? So, in answer to this question, that Hari, that's the name of the sage, he gives the answer. The highest contentment comes to that person who feels that God lives in everyone and everyone lives in God. The one who realizes the unity and oneness of creation. Not only humanity, whole creation. So if you leave only human beings and if you consider the earth as something to be exploited, air and water something that could be polluted, then also you cannot have contentment. So the one who sees the whole creation as one spiritual family, as a single spiritual family, alone will have peace of mind. And he is also the most wonderful devotee, the highest devotee. So sarva bhudeshu ye pashyed bhavad bhavamatmanah. The one who sees the presence of the Lord as Atman in everyone, and also the one who sees the whole creation in God, is the highest devotee. Is one of the most celebrated verses that comes at the 11th skandha of the Bhagavata Purana. So Vyasa says everyone should strive to realize the presence of this divine within us. And that's not enough. The presence of the divine in everybody and everything. So once this unity of existence on the basis of divine unity is not just believed in but experienced within, then we will have contentment. And Vyasa wrote these wonderful classics in 12 skandhas, 12 books called Bhagavata Purana. So this is one of the most striking illustrations of the most celebrated author and philosopher of ancient times in India, felt terribly discontented with him. And he got the answer to his question from another sage who told him, if you extend your personality to your neighborhood, if you think beyond your own psychophysical mechanism, and the farther you go upward, away from you, reaching first your neighborhood and the whole humanity, the more contentment you will have. So this is the real the experience of contentment. Then there is another picture that comes at the beginning of this text. So I will talk about this maybe in the next class. It is related to the dialogue between another great king and a great sage. The king also was in a very difficult predicament, and he goes in search of contentment. That we will discuss in the next class. So maybe we can get interaction. So yes.